A lot of you are not going to like what I have to say here, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway. I think expanding the World Cup to 48 teams by 2026 is an excellent idea, and FIFA made the right call here. It's kind of stunning that I'm saying that because we know FIFA's reputation as a governing football body, and it's not every day that you can level praise in their direction. But this is the right move. The main argument against expanding World Cups is that it's going to dilute the quality of the tournament, make it less special, and it's going to produce boring matches from teams that otherwise would not make it without an expansion because they're going to play very defensively and sit back, and we're going to have lackluster matches on television for the whole world to watch. So people are against the idea of an inclusivity for the World Cup. Well, they're wrong. Because the criticism of expanding a World Cup is nothing new, guys. It's existed for decades. Ever since the first World Cup in 1930, once the tournament was gradually expanded every 10 or so years, criticism that I just highlighted always has been proven wrong. 13 sides in the 1930 World Cup, the very first World Cup held in Uruguay, then became 16, then it went to 20, then it went to 24, and all the way to 32 that we know it today. It moved to 32 for France 1998, which seems like a long time ago, but it really wasn't. The United States in 1994 was the last host where there were 24 sides in the World Cup. FIFA added 8 more for the 98 edition. And the same criticism that's being leveled now was leveled back then. Many of you have seen World Cups. Would you say the current format with 32 teams invites too many weak sides into the tournament? I would guess your answer would be no. Certainly my answer is no as well. Which means that the criticism leveled at expanding it 8 more spots, the critics have been silenced. So it then becomes a question of, well, is there ever a limit to what an expansion might be? To the point where it would dilute the quality of a tournament? I would say yes, but I don't think that number is 48. I think 48 is just fine, and I think the tournament can be even more competitive with 48 sides on one condition. The allocation of spots for each continent has to be done the correct way. And this is where I differ with FIFA. FIFA wants to give Asia 8 or 9 spots, Africa 8 or 9 spots, want to give Europe only 2 more spots, want to give Oceania 1 full spot. Yes, Oceania. Want to give South America just 1 more spot, and want to give CONCACAF, I think, 2 or 3 more spots. I disagree with the allocation specifically that they are supporting, but I'm going to get into that a little bit later. First, I want to give more reasons for why, or at least one more major reason for why I think expanding the World Cup is a good idea. Let's be honest. There are more than 32 good teams in the world. Every continent has a specific number of spots that are given to it by FIFA to enter into the World Cup. Does that mean those 32 teams are exactly the 32 best sides in the world? No. They are representative of the best from their respective qualifying regions. So Europe has 13 spots under the current format. But I would argue that the 14th, 15th, and 16th ranked side in Europe is certainly better than the best sides in Asia, and certainly better than some of the teams with CONCACAF that make it, or Africa as well. Let's consider this. The Republic of Ireland, Wales, Serbia, I'm trying to think of more European sides, Poland, the Czech Republic are all pretty good European teams. They're not among the best in Europe. They're about second tier. All those teams I just named you are better than Iran. They're better than Honduras. They're better than, in my opinion, Australia. No disrespect to those teams. But I just named you 4 or 5 sides that are better than some of the actual World Cup participants in Brazil that we witnessed in 2014. So why is it then? Why is it that expanding a World Cup where these sides that are good enough to be in the tournament make it, how is that diluting the quality? I don't think it dilutes the quality. But again, it goes back to how the allocation of spots is proportioned. And this is where FIFA and I run into disagreement, as I just said. I think if you're going to expand it to 48 teams, you have to give Europe more spots. You simply have to. They want Europe to have 16, I think 16 spots. Now that's 1/3 of 48. I'm sorry, I think it's a little bit slightly ridiculous to have Europe have only 1/3 of the spots in the World Cup, because if you look at it under the current format, it's already less than half. So making their percentage in the showpiece event even smaller, from 45% down to 33%, roughly, calculation off the top of my head, I think that could dilute the quality of the tournament, thus proving their critics correctly. But not because expanding it's a bad idea, but the way they're choosing to expand it. I would say Europe should get at least 18 or 19 spots. 15, 16 is too low. And yes, that 3 or 4 difference is quite huge if you think about it. South America should have 2 more spots, in my opinion, instead of 1, because CONMEBOL is the second best region in the world. Asia having 9 spots is way too high, in my opinion. Asia is full of good teams. Iran, South Korea, Japan, Saudi Arabia is in good form right now, but including sides like Yemen or Syria or, I don't know, Vietnam, I think that would dilute the quality. Africa absolutely should have more spots than 5. Africa is a continent loaded with talent, especially at the youth level. So giving Africa 7 or 8 spots makes perfect sense. And what I want to say here is that expanding the World Cup under FIFA's current format is not just poor in the sense of the spot allocation, but in how they are setting up the groups. So those of you who are not familiar, FIFA wants to have 16 groups, which is massive, of 3 teams. So it's going from 8 groups of 4 under 32 to 16 groups, which is doubling the number of groups, of 3. 1 team less in each group. This is a bad idea. It's a bad idea because it cuts the number of group games that we know of now from 6 down to 3. So instead of each team playing each other for a total of 3 games each, and I guess I said 6 games in total in the group, each side's only playing twice, and as many as 1 loss would be enough for elimination. You're cutting, by having 1 less team in each group, you're cutting the number of games in each group down to half. Sure, you're making them more high stakes and possibly more competitive, but at the cost of almost 0 margin for error, which I think is really harsh on teams that go through a 4-year qualifying cycle just to reach the main event. So I don't like that idea. Because they still want to have the 2 best teams in each group advance. So you're having 2/3 of all the participants in each group advancing to what FIFA calls the first knockout round, a round of 32. And then from those 32 teams, have single elimination knockout rounds all the way to the final. So only 2 group games and 5 single elimination games. I think it's a bad idea. I think there needs to be more group competition. So if you're going to have 48 teams, then I would propose dividing it into 12 groups instead of 16. Because you have to have more than 8 groups if you're going to expand it from 32 to 48. Have 12 groups of 4. Four is a nice round, even number. Everyone plays each other once for a total of 3 games per team. Still for 6 games in each group, keep it the way it is. Have the 2 best teams from each advance. And have, I would say, the 8 best third place sides of those 12 groups advance into a round of 32 and then continue on with FIFA's proposed format and just single elimination knockout round until the final. I think that's more fair. People use Euro 2016 as an example of a poor method of expansion for the tournament. I disagree, because all of you guys who say, oh, Euro 2016 was boring, I didn't think it was boring. And all of the supposed whipping boys that you thought were going to be easy pickings for the big dogs in that tournament, a lot of them advanced. And the ones who didn't advance picked up upset results. Albania almost advanced. They beat Romania, who was expected to finish second behind France in the opening group. Northern Ireland advanced out of a tough group with Germany and Poland. I think it was Slovakia who advanced. Wales won their group. Wales, who qualified for a major tournament for the first time in almost 40 plus years, went to the semifinals under the leadership of Gareth Bale. Hungary surprised everyone in Group F by outlasting Portugal and Austria, the much more fancied sides. Iceland, we all remember Iceland, who beat England in the round of 16. Sorry, English watchers of this channel. And went to the quarterfinals. The Cinderella story of Euro 2016, Iceland. Hungary, Iceland. Oh, and by the way, the 2 favorites on that side of the bracket too, in that group, Austria and Portugal, they underwhelmed. Yes, Portugal went on to lift the trophy, but not after finishing in 3rd place in their group, after tying all 3 of their games. Austria, who were arguably the biggest disappointment of the tournament, given that they qualified with a near-perfect record. So I find this whole idea of, inclusivity is going to dilute quality, not only to be verifiably untrue, but it comes from a very elitist mindset that only the big names in football deserve to play in big tournaments. Everyone else is lowly and below them, and I think that's a fucked up mentality. I think it's really unfair. I think it's steeped in so many levels of untruth. And I think Euro 2016 proved that. A lot of people didn't like Euro 2016 because Portugal won. And let's be honest, the reason a lot of people don't like Portugal is because they don't like Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. I'm not someone who's particularly a big fan of Portugal myself, but that was really a lot of the reason why people said, oh, Euro 2016 was a shit tournament. It was not a shit tournament. So I think Euro 2016 was the perfect test run, the test drive, to show what a 48-side World Cup would look like. And basically the 2 main things that I'm trying to get across to you is a 48-team World Cup can be an excellent idea if it's done correctly, if each continent is given the proper allocation of spots. Europe and Africa and South America have to get more spots. CONCACAF can get a couple more. Just, I don't think Asia needs that many spots. Oceania getting 1 full spot is kind of a rocky decision too, but I understand the whole idea of trying to be more inclusive. But yeah, those are the 2 main things that FIFA can do to make it work, in my opinion, as well as fixing the how the bracket is set up and how many teams are in each group, how many groups there are, etc. So this is, guys, how I think a 48-team World Cup could work. I think the arguments against lower quality is complete horse manure. It's complete crap. So leave a comment below, like, subscribe. If you disagree, I want to hear your thoughts on this. I think it's a good idea. In principle, it's a good idea. So yeah, that's all I have to say on that matter. Till then, guys, see you in my next video. God willing, tomorrow when I make Champions League semifinal prediction, the first leg of Monaco and Juventus. Till then, guys, see ya. Peace.